Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Unreal Engine 5 tutorial. Today we're going to be having a look at what is known as animation retargeting. Animation retargeting is something you're going to want to know about as soon as you're ready to play as a different character from what we get with the default third-person template. So if you've been here before, you will know that when we go into play, we spawn in as Quinn. And Quinn is a great looking character model, and there's a lot of functionality that's already set up for us. We can run around, and we can jump, we can look around, and we can bump into things, and so forth. But there will come a time that you will want to play as something or someone else, and that's what we're going to do right now. So I'll open up my content browser, and I'll show you something that I've got in this project. It's this folder, Elf Druid Aerodel. And Aerodel is a character that I bought from Fab, and I think it's a really cool looking character model. So I'll go into Meshes, and we'll have a look. And I think this is a really, really cool looking elf. And this should work. This same workflow that you're going to learn in this tutorial is going to work for most industry standard skeletons and certainly any characters that you get from the Epic Marketplace or from Fab that use the UE4 or UE5 skeleton. So this is the one that we're going to be playing as a little bit later. And I could reuse the animations that are on Quinn by default. And to look at those, we can go into Characters, Mannequins, and Animations. And you'll see that there's an animation blueprint for Manny and for Quinn. And their basic animation sequences are located in these two folders. So if I wanted to just look at them in isolation, I could look at, for example, MF Run Forward, which is, in this case, what we have when we're doing this. Okay, that is the animation that's playing. And I can preview that. You can see this is what it looks like. I could reuse these, but instead I'm going to be using other animations that I got and you can get from various sources, like animation packs that you can purchase from Fab and other sources, or animations that, for example, might come with a different character. And I've got another character here in this folder called GhostLady_S3. There's a great character that I've owned for years. It's called Ghost Lady Necromancer. And that's in this folder, but I especially like the animations that it came with, and I use them frequently when I retarget. So they're inside this animations folder. And if you get animation packs or you're going to retarget animations from other characters and you have a choice between in-place and root motion, I'd like to recommend that until you learn about how root motion animations are implemented in Unreal, that you go the easier route and use the in-place versions if you're given that choice. So let's look inside that folder. And I've got some animations here, and I'm especially fond of this idle animation. Forgive the fact that this character is only partially dressed right now because we're seeing it, I think, on just like the base character mesh. I like this idle very, very much, more so than Quinn. And it also has its own run animation and its own walk animation that I just think are a little bit more becoming of the character that we are ultimately going to be playing as. So we're going to use these animations just because I like them more. So let's go back out of this. I don't need these docked anymore. So let's start by getting organized. I'm here in my base content folder once again, and we're going to go back inside of our target characters parent folder, and we're going to make a subfolder called retargeted animations. And inside of there, I'll make yet another folder, new folder, called From Ghost Lady. And the reason that I'm doing this is because I might retarget still more animations that come from other sources, like animation packs, for example, for things like special abilities. Maybe she's going to have a bow and arrow at some point. And Ghost Lady doesn't come with bow and arrow animations or sword fighting or things like that. So I might end up with other folders in here that are like this one from Ghost Lady, except they'll be from whatever the other source happens to be. Now, inside of From Ghost Lady, and I would do the same thing for any other similar folders that we create in the future, I'm going to make 2 more subdirectories. Right-click, new folder. One of them will be called Rigs, and we're going to need that. And I'll right-click again, and we'll have one called Animations, like so. Right. Now, this is just for preparation, and you're going to see that these folders are going to receive certain files that we're going to be generating as part of the retargeting process. So we'll back out to our content directory again and go to our source of animations, which is, in this case, Ghost Lady. Let's double-click to get inside there and go back to where the animations are located. We'll double-click there. In place, I'll double-click there. And let's go to whichever folder has at least some of the animations. And this is not all of the animations that Ghost Lady comes with, but that's okay. Find any of the animation sequences. It doesn't matter which one, and right-click on it and choose this option, Retarget Animations. And here, we're going to have to choose a target skeletal mesh. Now, I'm going to close this and open it again in just a moment because I want to show you something that you're going to want to take note of. Let's go back to Elf Druid Aradel's folder and into Meshes. This is where the skeletal meshes for that character are located. And I want to use this one, Elf Druid Aradel Full, because it is the most, it's the most equipped. So, for example, I could look at this one, Cloth 1, Cloth 2. Let's just compare these. And the one that's called Full. And zoom out a little bit and see if there's differences. Okay, like for example, you can see this one, the stuff on the arms is missing, and I like it when it's there. And if I compare this one to this one, there's that little shoulder thing at least. I'm so sorry, I don't know what those are called, but I like it. All right, so I think I want that there. So I'm going to use this Elf Aradel Full. We can close these tabs once again and go back to where I was just a moment ago inside of Ghost Lady, Animations, In Place, and Move Basic. All right, so here's anim_idle. I'm going to right-click that and choose Retarget Animations, and I want to make sure that I specify that mesh that I like the most here, where it says Target Skeletal Mesh. So let's just type Aradel in the search here, and I'm looking for Aradel Full, which is right there, okay? And yep, that's definitely the right skeletal mesh, and I can see that little shoulder armor, whatever that's called. And in many other tutorials that you'll see online and elsewhere, at this point, you'll probably be told to just export these animation sequences directly. I generally do not do that because I find that that can lead to certain translation problems that we can head off by doing it in a slightly different way. So I'm not going to export these animations yet. I'm going to instead use Export Retarget Assets. I'll click that. And here's where we're going to make use of one of those folders that I prepared in advance inside of Elf Druid Aradel's parent folder, inside of Retargeted Animations, from Ghost Lady, and I want to select this folder, Rigs. And remember, we made this folder. This is not there by default, so we created this entire folder structure, and I want this to go inside of Rigs. When I click Export, we're going to get 3 files, and here they are. You'll see with the asterisk signs that they need to be saved. So let's do that first, Control S, or actually, let's just make sure they're highlighted, Control S. And now we've got an automatically generated IK rig for our source, for our destination mesh, and an IK retargeter, which is very, very handy. So we're going to open up this retargeter now, double click it. And the first thing you'll notice is that both meshes are sort of superimposed on the screen, and that makes it a little bit tricky to view. So we're going to use this target mesh offset on the Z-axis. I can tell it's the Z-axis by looking in the little legend down here. And I usually use about 135 units, 135. I'll type that in right here. And now they're standing side by side. Okay, so I usually start this off by enabling IK in the retarget phases, so we'll do that. Next, I'll recommend that you click this button right here that says Running Retarget One Time, and it now says Editing Retarget Pose. And I like to begin by clicking this Auto Align menu and opening it up and clicking first on Align All Bones. And still, when you do that, you might see the target mesh move a little bit, and the degree to which that will happen will sort of depend on how closely aligned the bones are already. And in this case, they were pretty closely aligned because I didn't see very much movement. Next, you're going to open that menu again and choose Snap Character to Ground. And this would be a good time, let me just slower my camera speed here a little bit, to basically orbit around your character, your target, and make sure that nothing looks weird in terms of their posture. And I noticed by doing that in this case that the feet are not quite right. You can see that they're angled sharply down and our source is, standing normally. So just like the old days, I'm going to fix this before I retarget anything. So we're going to go to the skeleton hierarchy here, and I'm going to select the left foot. And let's rotate that 1, 2, 3, 30 degrees. And of course, you're going to do however many degrees is necessary. Make whatever adjustments you need. And let's snap that to the ground again. And let's see, does that look good? In this case, I think maybe another 5 degrees on both feet. There you go. And I had to, if you have to do this, you can change your snap size. I think it defaults to 10 degrees, but I'm using this to have finer control here. And then on the other foot, let's just bring that down 5 degrees more. And I'll just be sure here that she's snapped to the ground once more. Okay, everything else I think looks good. And if I go to the asset browser, I can preview some of these animations. So let's look at Anim Cast Spell, for example. And we're just looking to make sure that everything is translating in a way that looks good. And you can preview whichever ones you want, but these all look pretty great to me, including these idols that I like so much. Let's wait for 1 second. Yeah, she's going to look around. Yeah, I really like that idol quite a lot. Because I know that Aerodel uses, I think, the UE4 skeleton, and so does Ghost Lady, I'm going to go into this chain mapping here, and under Auto Map Chains, I'll choose Map All Exact, because I know that, at least for the primary bones, they're all identical. So we'll map all exact, and I think we're going to be in good shape here. Now I'll return to the asset browser, and I'm going to select all of the animation assets by just clicking one of them and doing a Control or Command A for Select All. Now I'm going to finally export these animations. So I'll click that, and I'm going to navigate again to the folder that I made to be their recipient. So that's going to be in Elf Druid Aerodel, Retargeted Animations from Ghost Lady. Last time we used rigs, but this time I'm going to choose that animations folder that we made. And I'll click Export. Overwrite existing files is kind of irrelevant right now because we haven't done it already. If you did something, if you had previously exported them and something went wrong, you could, for instance, set that to true and export again, and then it would save over them. But in this case, we don't have to worry about this, so I'll just hit Export, and that'll take a moment. And then there they are. So I'm going to do a quick Save All. Save Selected. And at this point, I can open any of these in the animation previewer and look at them that way, and they should all be just fine. These are cool animations. So well done to whoever made those. I think they're really cool. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is this. Elf Druid Aerodel did come with, here in this demo folder, an animation blueprint of her own. Let me see. That's probably here in Mannequin. Yeah, in animations. There is an animation blueprint and some basic animation sequences, but these are just retargets of, I think, probably the original third-person animations from maybe even Unreal Engine 4. And besides, oftentimes when you purchase a character from Fab or the marketplace or elsewhere, it won't even come with animation sequences, much less an animation blueprint of its own. So I want to show you what to do in the event that you don't get any of this stuff. What I'd like to do is basically to recycle what Quinn is using. And you'll notice that if you're using the third-person template, here in Characters, Mannequins, Animations, that we already have animation blueprints, one for ABP Manny and ABP Quinn. And the one that we're going to make use of is actually ABP Manny, because all of the logic is in this one. This is actually a child blueprint class, and you'll be able to tell if you open this. It'll warn you. I'll show you this warning. It's not really a warning, but it says this is a child NMBP, child of ABP underscore Manny. This means it uses the logic and graph of another NMBP, etc. You can read that full message if you like. But the one that I'm going to basically recycle is that of Manny, because Manny's has a lot of functionality already set up for us, okay? So let's just close those tabs. And what I'd like to do now is just simply copy this. So I'll click it, and I'm hitting Control-C for copy. And I'm going to place this inside of Elf Druid Aradel. I'll make a new subfolder, new folder called ABP, or you could call it Animation Blueprint or something of that nature. Open that up, and I'm going to right-click. Excuse me, I'm not going to right-click at all. I'm going to Control-V and paste it. Now, I don't want to continue to use the same name, however, so I'll hit F2. And I'm going to rename this ABP Elf Druid, or actually, I'll just call it ABP underscore Aradel. That should be fine. ABP Aradel. All right, so now what I can do is I'm going to edit this animation blueprint. Before I do, though, I need to change the skeleton that this is associated with. So that's pretty easy. I'm going to right-click this and choose Assign Skeleton. In a moment, actually, because let's just check Aradel's skeleton. It's going to probably be here with the skeletal meshes. And it's right here. Yeah, it's called Skell underscore Elf Druid Aradel. All right, so that's good to know. So we'll go back here, and we will right-click and Assign Skeleton. I just wanted to make sure that there was only one. So we'll search for Aradel. Yep, there it is. And we will accept that. All right. Now, I also happen to know that there is in Ghost Lady Necromancer blend space. So let's look at that. Ghost Lady, animations, in place, move basic. There is a blend space 1D. And if I open that, you'll see that there is an idle and a walk and a run. I'm also going to take note of the fact that these animations are set up to work in a speed range from 0 through 375. And the reason that I'm noticing that, and the reason that I think it's important, is because I happen to know that the default character in Unreal is set up for a maximum speed of 500 centimeters per second. So this is a little bit different, and I want these animations to match up well. So you can see that the run animation here is at a speed of 375, and the walk animation is at a speed of 93.75. I'm going to try to remember that, because I'm going to make a fresh blend space that contains these animations, but set it for it to be set up for Aradel. So let's go back to Aradel's folder, and maybe I could put it right here in Animation Blueprint. I'll make another folder called Blend Spaces. And inside there, we'll right-click, hover over Animation, and choose Legacy Blend Space 1D, like so. And I want to pick that same Aerodel skeleton that we used before. Aerodel. Okay. And we'll name this BS1D Aerodel underscore idle walk run, like this. Aerodel idle walk run. And we know that we've got the right skeleton because we can see the thumbnail of our skeletal mesh there. We'll open that up. Let's dock this. And now I want to specify the horizontal axis here. I'll twirl that down, and I need to type the name speed, spelled correctly, of course. And I don't need to change the minimum axis value, but I do want to change the maximum axis value to 375, remembering that from the Ghost Lady blend space, so that we know that the rate scale of our animations is going to line up the way we want when we put them in here. So I know from having looked at these animations before that I like anim underscore idle 1, but you'll pick the one that you like from whatever source of animations you're using. And I'm going to drag that into the blend space so that it aligns with the leftmost edge at speed 0. Next, we're going to find our anim underscore walk, and I'll drag that in towards this division here, and I'm going to just click on the little diamond and set the speed explicitly right here to 93.75, which again I'm remembering from the other blend space. And then lastly, anim underscore run. That'll go all the way to the right. And now if I hold down Control, I can scrub through these animations and verify that my blend space is working. Okay, so that looks fine. Now let's save that. And the reason that I did this before editing the animation blueprint is because I know that in one of the animation states inside of Manny's animation blueprint, the one that we're reusing, there is a place where we're going to have the need for an idle walk run blend space. So let's go back here into ABP, and now I'm going to start editing this animation blueprint. So we'll double click that to open it. And right away, I'm getting this warning here that the control rig hierarchy discrepancy for bones exist. And this control rig is not set up for this character. So let's go into our anim graph. We'll double click that. And I'm going to leave this in the graph for now, but I am going to bypass it. So we'll alt click or option click on both of those wires to disconnect them. And I'm going to connect the default slot to the final output pose there and compile and save, and that will get rid of those errors. You can see that her pose is very, very awkward right now. We're gonna fix all of that. So let's start off in this first locomotion state machine. We'll double click that, and we'll go into the idle state. And right now it's playing the male mannequin idle. That is why she looks so strange right now, because that is for Manny. I'll delete that, and let's bring up our content browser, and let's go back to find the animations that we retargeted to Aerodel. Retargeted animations from Ghost Lady, animations, and I'm going to look for idle, and idle 1 is the one that I want to use. I'll bring that in there and connect it to the output animation pose. I like to compile and save as I go, and you can see that looks a lot better than what we had by default. Great. So let's back out now, back into locomotion, and we'll go into walk run. And I'm not going to use this blend space. Instead, I'm going to use the blend space that we made, and that is in our, oops, I have to clear my filter, go into where I saved that, blend spaces. Drag that into the graph. By the way, when you drag animations into the graph, if it gives you like an X or something like that, usually that means that you have not set the skeleton for the animation blueprint. It might still be associated with the wrong skeleton, so make sure that you don't overlook that step. So ground speed, we'll go into the speed input here, and then we'll connect this to the final output animation pose. Compile and save. Next. These are the states that are in the locomotion, which is being cached. And here in main states is where we have the jumps. So let's open that up. And I'm going to go into the jump state and get rid of that male mannequin jump. Go back to our retargeted animations from Ghost Lady Animations and search for jump. Here it is, jump start. That's the one I want to use. Compile and save. Let's go back to main states. And I think in this case, we're looking for this state here, which is, fall loop. Get rid of that one. And we'll use this retargeted jump loop. Compile and save. Back to locomotion. Is it locomotion? No, main states, beg your pardon, and into the land state. We're not going to do this additive thing, so you can get rid of all of that. And we're going to go to jump end, in my case, and connect that up. Compile and save, and there's no warnings, no errors, no nothing. So I think we're in pretty good shape here. Now I want to actually create the character, and this is going to be super simple. Let's go back to our main content directory and scroll down to third person folder. Let's open that up and go into our blueprints directory. And I'd like to make this new character just by duplicating the BP underscore third person character. So we will go ahead and right click that and choose duplicate. And I'm going to call this BP underscore Aridel in my case, and open it up. Okay, now we're going to head on over to the viewport and start by changing the mesh. So I'll highlight the mesh, and I'm going to search here where it says skeletal mesh asset. I'll type a search for Aridel, and remember I'm looking for the one that has full in the name. Let's see, there it is, Aridel full. And again, the posture looks weird because Aridel right now is wearing the wrong animation blueprint, so to speak. And now, where it says animation, under animation mode, use animation blueprint, and that anim class is going to be the one that we modified. So it's going to be right in the list right there, ABP underscore Aridel. Fantastic. Now I can compile and save. All right, the character is ready to be used at this point. And if you don't have this world settings tab right here, I would recommend that you do open that. It's here in the window menu. You're going to choose world settings, and I think it will dock right here by default. Here in our selected game mode, twirl that down, and you're going to change out this default pawn class either by opening this up and searching for BP underscore Aridel, or you can use my favorite button in all of Unreal Engine, which is to have an asset highlighted, and use the Use Selected Asset from Content Browser button and just pop it in there. Okay, so now this game mode, we could make a new game mode if we wanted to, I suppose, but the BP underscore third person game mode, the default pawn class is going to be BP underscore Aridel. So now when we go into play, this actually can happen. And this is, I think, the character blueprint that came with, let's see, could not find the anim blueprint for character BP. Would you like to choose a new one? I would really like to actually delete that blueprint altogether, character underscore BP. I think that's one that came with Aridel probably. So let's search for character BP. And I don't need this at all. So I'm just going to delete it. Force delete. Okay, if that happens to you. All right, and here we are. And we are Aridel. It still says preparing shaders, so I might wait a second. And you know what I've noticed here? Let's go into Pi mode, play in editor, and maximize that. I like it more to have the camera closer to my character model there. So in this case, I'll fix that pretty easily by going back into the blueprint here. And here in the viewport, in the components panel, I'll select the camera boom. And instead of the default target arm length of 400, I like to set it to about 230 or so. Of course, it'll depend on the scale of your character model. compile and save that and see if that looks better. Yeah, I think that looks lots better. And since we have that blend space, and I'm remembering that the speeds for these animations are not quite right for the default speeds in the character blueprint that we duplicated for BP_Aradel, let's modify a few things here. Let's go to the character movement component first of all. And I'll remember that the maximum speed for the run animation that we're using was actually 500 and, was actually 375 and not 500. So under character movement walking, you can see the max walk speed by default is 500. But if we wanted that to be lined up perfectly, we would type 375 in this case. And I'll compile and save. And although the feet were moving pretty fast, so it's unlikely you're going to see much of a difference here. But if you notice like any skidding or sliding or misalignment, that's something that you can do and see if the animations that you are retargeting from did in fact come with a blend space of their own, so you can check to see if the speeds are any different. Okay, so we were lucky in this case that they did. There is a way to analyze them, to analyze your animation sequences when you make a new blend space, to have Unreal Engine sort of determine the speeds for you. And if you're interested, just let me know in the comments and I can put that into a video also. I think I'm going to skip over that in this particular tutorial. And as long as we have that blend space and we know that she can walk, maybe this would be a good time to prototype that. So I'll head to the event graph and let's just create some simple logic to toggle between walking and running. I know that the max walk speed is going to be part of this, and that lives inside the character movement component. And let's modify this again. I want her to start walking rather than running. So let's set our max walk speed to that value that I'm remembering, which was 93.75. We'll default it to that. Let's compile and save. And you'll see that if I go into play right now, the character will be walking instead of running. And I want to make it so that if I hold down Shift while pressing WASD, that only while holding Shift will the character run. So back inside the event graph, we'll pull off from character movement, and I'll type set max walk speed. This one. And I want to type the max walk speed of 375. Okay, 37.5 meters per second, or 375 centimeters per second. And I'm going to need two of these because we're going to need one for running and one to return back to walking. So we can duplicate that. And its target is also the character movement component. And we'll reset that to 93.75. So I've got one for running and one for walking. Now to toggle these, we'll use just a prototyping input of left shift. And when that is pressed, we'll set the max walk speed to the running speed. And when it's released, it'll return back to the walking speed. Okay, so that's the simple setup to toggle between running and walking by holding down Shift. And that's right under my left hand. So I'm walking, and if I hold down Shift, I'm running. And in either case, I can still jump. Let's look at something here. I want to see if I can make this jump. Okay, I can. Can I make it from down here? No. Here's something else real quick you can do. If you're so inclined, if you want to jump higher, is you can go back to the character movement component and you can go to jump Z velocity and increase this value right here, the jump Z velocity. Let's set that to 1,000, just as a guess. Compile and save. Of course, you could set it to something stupidly high and jump way up into the stratosphere, but now I can make that jump. These are just some easy things to know when you're setting up a new character. All right, so I think we've accomplished our goal, and now we are Great Elf Aradel. Okay, mission accomplished, so thank you very much for watching, and I hope this helped you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.